So, dizziness. Not the best feeling in the world, and definitely not helpful when you're trying to do 1, 2, 3, even up to 8 turns in a row. Today I'll be discussing the way dancers and skaters prevent dizziness and then the neurological effects on these athletes. So dizziness is caused by many things. I'll be focusing on the dizziness that's caused by spinning in circles. So dizziness is very much connected to maintaining your balance, and your balance is controlled by 3 main parts of your body: your eyes, your inner ear, and the receptors in your muscles and your joints. Your eye helps your balance by receiving visual clues about your surroundings, which helps place yourself and keeps you centered. This is mainly why when you close your eyes, you become a little unsteady on your feet and you're like, whoa. Your receptors, they're called your proprioceptors. The most important ones as far as balance goes are in your neck and head, because it senses your head position in comparison to the rest of your body, and the ones in your ankles and your feet as it senses your body swaying in relation to the ground. Now, your inner ear has 2 main contributors to the balance mechanism: the vestibule and the 3 semicircular canals. This part is also known as the vestibular labyrinth. This vestibular labyrinth is filled with fluid. As you spin, this fluid moves with you at the same speed. As the fluid moves, it sends electrical signals to your brain through nerve endings that are in your inner ear. This is interpreted as movement. Basically, when you stop spinning, the momentum will keep the fluid in your ear spinning, which causes it to continue to send signals that you are moving. Your vision will start to contradict that you're moving, and your brain will get confused and you'll feel very dizzy. So, of course, this can't help when you're spinning. So what dancers will do is they'll actually spot. Spotting is when you focus on an area, and it doesn't have to be an actual object, it can be just like anything. And basically what you do is you look at it and you start to turn. When you get to a certain point where your head starts to tilt, what the dancer will do is they'll whip their head around, and this is called refocusing your spot. Basically what it allows for is constant visual input, which lessens the confusion and allows for your brain to locate itself. This also helps because it allows for very little movement in your proprioceptors. It's very important that dancers won't tilt their head from side to side, as your proprioceptors will try to realign your body and save the turn, which will cause hopping or for a dancer to fall out of their turn. Now, skaters, they can't spot because the blades and the ice, there is very little friction between them, which allows for really, really fast turns, which is why they can get up to 8 and even more sometimes. See, if they were to spot, it would actually injure their necks sometimes, or they could fall out of their turns with the extra movement. So what they do instead is they'll find something really stationary to look at as they exit their turns. This will allow for a visual input right away, and it'll help them gain their bearings really fast. Also, what skaters will tend to do is they'll adjust their focus so they're not actually seeing everything as they turn around, and this allows for their visual sensory to not be overloaded. This, of course, only lessens the dizziness, and they're, of course, still fairly dizzy. So what they'll do is if you look at their routines, they'll actually incorporate these things called dance moves because they're not jumps or turns. Basically, this can include skating out, or if they were to pose. This requires less balance, so it's easier to do, especially when you're dizzy. So skaters are actually still dizzy after their turns, but they're able to mask it, and they give themselves time to regain their full balance. Of course, these tricks aren't the full story, but even though they do help. See, practice makes perfect actually plays in a lot with turning, especially with dancers and skaters, as these athletes actually teach their brains how to suppress dizzy signals. There's a study that was done in London where they put dancers in a dark room and spun them around in a chair. They took these results of how long it took for their eye reflexes to die down and for them to not feel dizzy. They basically took those results and compared them to rowers of the same age, gender, and fitness level. what they found is it took less time for the dancer's eye reflexes to stop and for the feeling of spinning to fade. Basically what's happening is part of your cerebellum that reads sensory input from your vestibular organs was actually smaller from the dancers because they suppress the dizziness signals. Though there was no study that I could find, I predict that skaters would have this same, their cerebellum would also be smaller, even maybe to a much higher extent because of the greater need of suppression. Basically, this decrease in input subsequently causes a reduction of signals that are being sent to the cerebral cortex, which is responsible for your perception of dizziness. Scientists believe that this reduction is because the brain sees it as very unhelpful to feel dizzy, and it decides to allow the body to rely on pre-placed movements and positions. Now, I've been dancing for 9 years, and I can easily say that if you've found your positions and you're on your leg and everything's locked in, it does not matter how dizzy you are or how dizzy you are not. Until your muscles give out, you're not falling over if you are balanced. So, though this alteration wasn't really in the natural plan for your brain, this does occur naturally. And this finding is actually very beneficial as the information is being used to try and cure chronic dizziness. Thank you.